Bridgerton just came out on Netflix and I binged the entire thing. Was it worth it? Hey y'all, and welcome to my vlog. My name is Erin and today we're going to be talking about Bridgerton. It's a new Netflix series based on the romance novels by Julia Quinn and it was produced by Shonda Rhimes. The first season is based on the book The Duke and I, which focuses on the romance between Daphne Bridgerton and Simon Bassett, the Duke of Hastings. Let's dig into the good, the bad, and the why would you do that? Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and ring that bell so you always know when a new video is uploaded. If you haven't watched Bridgerton yet and you plan to do so, here are some content warnings to be aware of going into it. Misogyny, racism, miscarriage, attempted abortion, on-screen sex, reproductive coercion, attempted rape, birth, and several coerced relationships. Now this video is based exclusively on the adaptation and not the books. At this point the books are 20 years old and I have not read them. I'm going to assume that most of the problematic elements that are present in them are the product of the time in which they were written, and the adaptation has had a chance to bring things up to our modern expectations. All of my opinions are just from the show. Let's start with what I liked. The setting is gorgeous. For most of this, we are set in a fantasy version of London. Everything is bright and clean, the flowers bloom in excessive numbers, and the sky is always blue except for a couple of strategically timed rainstorms. We're treated to massive estate homes, beautiful gardens, and every lovely thing that you would expect from a historical. The casting is very pretty. So many of the characters are just beautiful, like bravo on the casting. Look at them. Eloise is an absolute delight. She is the second eldest Bridgerton daughter, and she absolutely steals the scene in pretty much every one that she's in. She rages against the patriarchy, she wants an education, and she challenges her family members who have privilege to do better. She honestly has lesbian spinster vibes written all over her, but a little bit of research dashed those hopes. Penelope Featherington is an absolute sweetheart. I think part of my love for this character might come from the actress who also plays Claire on Dairy Girls, and she's just so charming. I was really hoping that she would be gay and in love with Eloise, but no! At least the dude that she does have a crush on is a pretty decent human, so I can accept it, but I don't like it. I know that the books are older, but I feel like we missed a huge opportunity for Penelope and Eloise to get together. They have ridiculous chemistry, and I know on Twitter I am not the only person who noticed. Lady Danbury is also the best. She is a wonderful older woman who raised Simon and absolutely has a spine of steel. She takes no crap from anyone, but she's also really sweet and thoughtful. She's one of the staples of London society and takes a lot of pride in knowing all the latest gossip, and she just has this exquisite mama bear energy around her. Ooh, we also got a female masturbation scene, which is super rare in like any media, let alone a historical. I didn't like that Daphne was so ignorant about literally anything to do with sex. But I'm very glad that someone enlightened her on masturbation and she actually got to experience that before she got married. Now, let's talk about what I didn't like. Starting off on a lighter note, Daphne's bangs. They drove me bananas the entire show, and every single time they appeared in some new weird configuration, I was just like, that's a choice. Also, some of the outfits, they're just, my goodness, look at them. Marina Thompson deserved better. I loved her and I respected her struggle, but holy damn, the misogyny and slut-shaming that were directed at this character was a lot. I know it's a historical and that London society was a bunch of haughty bitches, but I did not enjoy watching it directed at her. There was a painful virgin sex scene and it kind of started okay, but then they just cut off the foreplay and went straight to penetration, and it was just not necessary. I'm also not entirely certain if Daphne came in most of the sex scenes. Like, it's clear that she's having a good time, but Simon is also pulling out during sex, and when that happens, everything stops. They also tried to explain in the story why they cast people of color rather than just letting them exist in the story. Their logic was that King George fell in love with a black woman and made her his queen, which caused an immediate and widespread societal change. And societies don't work like that. England can barely handle not being racist towards a biracial princess in 2020. It would be nice if it was that easy, and I wish that it was. But I feel like even in this historical romance fantasy London context, it felt weird to shove an explanation in there rather than just letting the characters exist as they are. I was perfectly willing to just accept that there were black dukes and a black queen and other black nobility. Miscommunication is a staple of this romance. And I know that it is a horrible trope of a lot of romances, but my god, it causes anything from like mild misfortune to a life-altering horrible events. I just want to put like all the characters in a snow globe and shake it until they come to their senses and just have communication, have a conversation, be honest, cause oh my god. I hate it so much. The leads in this romance were kind of crappy to one another in a lot of episodes. Several instances just entirely ruined my hope for them and I stopped rooting for the couple. They don't talk about important things, they just assume the other one knows or it's just never addressed and it causes all of these issues and I'm just like, for God's sake, open your mouths and speak. Now, let's talk about the scene. If you've read the books, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I was only vaguely aware of what the scene was. There were a little bit of rumblings in my romance writing group, so I knew that it existed but not what it entailed. And obviously I'm not exactly sure how it goes down in the books, so I can only tell you how it goes down in the show. In the show, it could have all been avoided with a proper conversation and a little bit of sex ed. Simon does not want to sire an heir because he's very spiteful towards his father and he vowed to end the Hastings line. The wording that was used was that he couldn't have a child, not that he didn't want to have a child, and so Daphne was working under the assumption that he was infertile or otherwise physically incapable of fathering a child. And Daphne, being extremely ignorant of anything sex-related, even despite having sex and being on her honeymoon, still had to accost a maid to inquire how conception worked. Up until this point, Simon had been pulling out during sex to try and not impregnate Daphne. And when she finds out that that's what's happening, rather than having an adult conversation with this man, she decides to get on top during sex so that he can't pull out and prove to herself that he's simply been denying her motherhood. It is so uncomfortable to watch, and she's very calculating in this scene, like she knows what she is doing and that it's going to upset him. I really wish that they had had an adult conversation about this, because what she did is reproductive coercion, and that's rape. And their resolution to all of this was not even to apologize or have an actual discussion about that. Instead, they talked about how he doesn't have to be perfect to deserve a love, and he can choose happiness, and then he is suddenly totally fine with having children with Daphne. And then we get a sex scene where she takes his baby juice on screen. It was not great. So, was Bridgerton worth the hype? If you are watching it for the main romance, then no. If you are watching it for the plethora of delightful side characters, then maybe. They made it a lot more bearable to watch, so I'm gonna give them that. There was a lot that I didn't like, but I am glad that romance novels are being adapted in productions like this. I really hope that that is something that continues. However, this series in particular was probably about twice as long as it needed to be, and I didn't like the leads. I'm honestly a little baffled that the Bridgerton series is something that Shonda Rhimes chose to adapt to begin with. I don't hate the casting choices, and I'm happy that they gave work to actors of color. But they also could have chosen a series that was by an author of color and already consisted of a majority cast of color. Maybe in the future. And I don't begrudge Julia Quinn this opportunity because it's a dream for a lot of writers. I simply wish that they had chosen a story that was already diverse. Have you watched Bridgerton? What did you think? And what romance novels would you like to see adapted? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked this video. Check out my books if you like fantasy or romance. All my links to social media will be in the description below. Subscribe and ring that bell, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!